Got a very big day today, so let's shower up, grab the perfect shirt. There it is. Now I need a matching pair of sneakers. These should do. Grab this elevator to the top of one of Seattle's most iconic buildings. And now we set up for a big interview. So we are at the top of the Space Needle, which, if you look out, couldn't be a further view than what the Pacific Islands look like. But we are celebrating the release of Moana 2. I have Christina Chen over here, and I also have, I'm gonna do my best.
Go for it.
Haulalai Chung.
Yep.
I did it. But I can also call you Hua, right?
Don't call me Hua if you want.
Perfect. See, I tried. I've been practicing for a very long time. I'm going to start with you, Hua. Getting in character when the character's not you, physically. Like, how do you show up to a sound studio? Because you're the voice of Moni. Are you rolling in like sweats and like super comfortable? Are you trying to get into character when you're behind a microphone? How do you get ready to voice an animated character?
When we first started working on the film, I lived with my grandmother at the time, and there's no way she would let me walk out the door in sweats looking like that. She would slap me before, making sure that I looked presentable. But, one of the cool things about my experience and the history of getting the role of Moni, I remember sitting in front of my computer on the Zoom call, talking to all of these individuals who were part of this Disney team of this movie that I didn't know what it was for. And they had said, explain yourself to us. And I said, okay, well, my name is Haulalai Chung. I'm born and raised in Kaneohe, Oahu in the state of Hawaii. I love to sing, dance, tell stories, joke around, goof around with my friends. And when I'm not doing that, I'm probably out in the middle of the Kaneohe sandbar on my boat with my motor that sometimes decides not to work. At that time, I believe it was Dave Derrick, our director, had kind of stopped and been like, you kind of just explained the entire character, and we didn't even tell you what this film is about or who you're auditioning for.
So when you auditioned and everything, you were just kind of presenting yourself. You didn't know exactly what role you were going for.
So I did. There was a role, but it was fake labeled. It was unlabeled studio wise. It was unlabeled project wise. I was told it was a Pacific Islander project, animated project coming out from California and from Hollywood.
Did you have an idea?
I think I did, but it naturally, coming from the islands, we have this sense of not believing the grandeur of what something could be. So you see it and you're just like, this would be funny if there's Moana, right? That'd be crazy. And then you get the call from the animation studio that's what it is, and that's what you're being asked if you want to play a role in, and your mind just goes crazy and just blows wild.
And I want to come back and talk about how being a kid from the islands and being able to play this role has to be an incredible experience. But I also want to talk to our producer here, Christina. I think one of the interesting things is your path to becoming a movie producer is not typical. You were essentially a finance bro for Disney, right? Didn't you come in through the finance department?
Yes. And actually before that, I was a CPA. So definitely the neighbor of the finance pro, maybe even slightly less cool. But yeah, so I started off in accounting and then I went to finance, but I've always loved film my whole life. I knew I couldn't stay in the accounting industry, and I knew that finance in general, at least it would be closer to the filmmaking process. That's all I really wanted. I wanted to just be closer to it, learn. And then when an opportunity came up after I'd been in kind of a production planning studio capacity to produce Iwaju, I was lucky enough to really dive in headfirst into the storytelling process. And then I was lucky enough to work on this project with my fellow producer, Bette Marino.
Oftentimes, the finance people are the bad guys, right? They're the ones who have to tell you no a lot of times. How do you balance your old life with being a producer and needing to expand budgets and do things that maybe the finance people don't love? How do you balance that role?
I think it's a lot of, instead of no buts, it's a lot of yes and. Because I think everyone ultimately wants the same thing. We all want to make a really, really, really great movie, and we want to make it for a release date. And I think that knowing that character and story comes first, it's so critical for us because we have only so many levers. We only have so many hours in the day, and really prioritizing that the story has to be amazing. The characters have to look magnificent. I think that's really what our guiding north is.
Now, coming back to you as a local kid, essentially, who gets to play a role in the movie that represents or is supposed to represent your people. Because I'm Middle Eastern, right? So I came from the generation that had Aladdin, which was great. But then you start looking at it I don't really know who this is supposed to represent from the Middle Eastern world because they threw so many things together. So when you watched Moana, the first one, did you think, wow, they actually did a pretty good job with this? I feel seen.
being in Hawaii, we are the melting pot of the South Pacific. So we do have a lot of cultural representation from that of Samoa, Tonga, Fiji, Tahiti, Aotearoa. So like we're raised to have the mindset that you're Polynesian. In fact, my dad growing up would always say, you're not Hawaiian, you are Polynesian of Hawaiian descent.
Okay.
Idealize yourself as that because our paths cross as Polynesians. When you do the research into our history, into geographic studies as Polynesians migrated across the Pacific, like we share language, so many similarities in language. We show so many similarities in legends, in urban tales, in deities and gods, that there is really such a close relation among all of us. And in recent years, there's been such a strive to acknowledge the similarities of us as being Pacific Islanders versus the differences. Recently we had a big festival back in Hawaii called the Festival of Pacific Island Nations, or FESPAC. It's held once every 4 years, and every year it's in a different region throughout the Pacific. And basically the whole point of this festival was to bring all these Pacific Island nations together to share in community among different traits of culture, language, process, like arts and crafts, woodworking, and then ultimately voyaging, which is such a huge tone and which is such a huge theme of Moana, obviously. So to be able to be a Pacific Islander who had this kind of like mindset from the beginning, and see the culmination of cultural assets being displayed on such a stage at such a platform was really, really heartwarming.
It's funny listening to you gush about this stuff because your character is the historian / storyteller of the movie, right?
Yeah, totally.
Just knowing you for 5 minutes, I feel like they couldn't have cast a better person.
Thank you.
But the other part of your character is also that you're kind of a Maui fanboy, right? Your character, Moni, is a Maui fanboy. Is Hua in real life a Dwayne Johnson fanboy?
Oh, 100%. So the fun fact is that in my group of friends back home, one of the guys in our community who is, as we consider kind of one of the boys, is Tanoai Reed. Tanoai is Dwayne Johnson's stunt double. So Dwayne has shown presence throughout the islands time and time again. And I think, like you have a childish like idolization of somebody like that, of like a Dwayne Johnson. For me, it was Dwayne Johnson. In acting, it was people like Johnny Depp. There's all these different icons throughout the industry. But the thing that made me really, really appreciate Dwayne Johnson the most was that he is wholehearted, fearless in representing his Samoan heritage. And not just his Samoan heritage, but also his African-American heritage and who he comes from. And the fact that he's not going to be scared to try to represent that. A big thing growing up in Hawaii is our language historically has not been as prominent. And now in modern days, like a lot of people are really scared to try to speak their language because they're scared of sounding silly. They're scared of representing hula because they're scared of looking silly or looking different. But having people out there like Dwayne Johnson being fearless in faumuing or chihuing on social media for everybody to hear, for everybody to judge, and not giving a care in the world as to what they feel about it, it encourages a lot of us to step up and own our space and own our grounds, not to be boastful about it, not to be braggy about it, but to be like, oh, I'm Polynesian. What's up?
It's that we talked about it a little bit before. That's why representation is so important. And I think it's going to be cool, even though the character is animated, you're going to have that same effect on a little kid on an island somewhere as well. So I hope you get to sit back and appreciate that at some point as well. The same influence The Rock had on you as a young man or a little boy, you're going to have on someone else. Like the movie kind of is going from past to future. We've talked about the production of the movie, but I want to talk to the producer about the future of the movie, because not only is it a huge Disney project, it did really well the first time. You have a holiday weekend. Did you feel the pressure in putting all the pieces together for Moana 2?
I think for us, all the pressure is internal. Like, there's such a deep love for the first film that we just want to kind of meet that pressure and use it to actually fuel our performance. Because I think for us that is really the only pressure. We want to honor these characters. We want to honor the love that these audience members have for these characters. We want to make them proud. We want to make them so they feel like, yes, they spent their Thanksgiving in watching Moana 2 with their family, with their friends, and like, yes, this was a great decision. We love being back in this world. So any kind of challenge with that was really just us wanting to do our best.
What is one thing you're excited for the audience to see? And I'll start with you, Christina.
It's beautifully done. Like, our animators and all of our artists, we had hundreds and hundreds of artists work on this project, and they just pour their heart and soul to every single frame. It's absolutely gorgeous. I'm excited for Pua to be on the journey. Like, I was a big fan of Pua on the first film, was bummed that he didn't go on the canoe with them. So I'm just excited for everyone to see Moana grow up and actually be a leader and have a new crew.
I'm a musician, so one of the things that I love the most is the music. You know, Emily Bear and Abigail Barlow have poured so much of their spirit. They have matured in their lives somewhat as the same way that we tell the story as Moana has matured, and even as Auli'i has matured in real life. So you get the sense of maturity in the music, both in its construction of music as well as in the singing itself. These songs are ones that I would like to say would live in households for time and time again.
Well, from the first one they have, so why not?
Exactly. So, I mean, a lot of these, there is this sense of evolution story-wise and maturity that I feel like everybody will fall in love with. So the music is definitely something that I'm infatuated with. And as prominent in all Disney movies, there's always like fun little surprises and things that pop up. So don't leave the theater until you get kicked out.
I do have to thank you guys because, as you can see behind us, not the prettiest day here in Seattle, but because I was coming here, I was like, you know what? I need to brighten myself up. So I got my Moana shirt on, right? And I put my bright sneakers on, but I'm very, very excited to see it. Go check it out. Thank you guys so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
And now I'm taking this home.
Do it.